In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at assignment 4.4 in WALMAP. This assignment is all about functions. Before I jump into it though, just a little bit of a preamble to make sure that you know, this is my number one. Your number one will likely look different because lots of stuff gets randomized in WALMAP. Even the order that you might see different questions in gets randomized. So realize that even though the actual question, the actual numbers might be a little bit different from what you see, the basic concepts though are still going to be the same. And so it makes it a great way for me to be able to still talk you through these problems and see how they're done without just giving answers. All right, so let's jump into this one. This is all about function notation. So notice we're told that we have f of x equals 5x minus 9. And we're asked to evaluate f of negative 9. The most important thing about this problem is knowing where that negative 9 goes as a result. Well, you'll notice that the negative 9 is where the x would normally be in the parentheses there. That means that the negative 9 goes in for x. And so I'm going to write down, and yes, write down your math. I know you're doing it on the computer, but still writing it down is going to be hugely beneficial for you. F of negative 9 equals 5 times negative 9 minus 9. And so this over here is what I'm trying to figure out. That's the whole point of this question, is saying, what does that equal? So now it's an order of operations problem. So I'm going to do 5 times negative 9, which is negative 45, still minus 9. So I do negative 45 minus 9, which is negative 54. And there's my answer. All I have to do is type in negative 54, then press submit, and I'm going to be good to go. I got that one right. Of course, if you submit one and you find that it's not right, go back, fix it until you have full points on every single problem. And if you run into problems being able to get to that point and figure out how to get something right, let me know so I can help you out with it. Our next problem here looks very similar to the first one. We have some f of x, looks like a linear thing. In this case, we're told solve f of x equals negative 16. Now the notation on this second line does look different in a very important way. Notice the negative 16 is not in the parentheses where the x was. Instead, it says f of x equals negative 16, which means that the negative 16 goes where f of x normally goes. So we're actually going to have negative 16 equals 5x plus 4. That's what this really means, is that we should be replacing f of x with negative 16. And from here, we solve. So we're just going to do the algebra. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 5. And that leaves us with negative 4 equals x. And so then notice that it already has the x equals up here. And so I'm just going to type in negative 4 into the box. And then I can click submit, and I'm done with that one. Next problem. Now that we've taken a look at the basics of function notation and reminding ourselves how it gets used, now we're going to step it up a little bit. And we're actually going to start doing operations on multiple functions. So you notice in this case, we're told what f of x and g of x both equal. And then we're asked to find f plus g of x. This literally means that we're going to take f of x and we're going to add it to g of x. That is literally what that notation means there. And so I'm going to go ahead and grab what f of x is, which is 10 minus 6x. And then I'm going to add whatever g of x is. So that's going to be the 3x squared minus 7x plus 9. And from here, it's just a matter of combining like terms. So I have a 10 here. That doesn't have an x in it. Anything else without an x? Yep, I got a 9 right here. 10 plus 9 is going to be 19. All right, so then I also have an x term here. I also have an x term here. So those can go ahead and combine. So that's going to give me a negative 13x. And then there's no others that have the x squared in them. So that's just going to stay a plus 3x squared. This then is now my fully simplified final answer. I will put that in the box and submit it. Next problem, very similar to the last one, but we got to be a bit more careful with it. So in this case, we're being asked to figure out what f minus g is going to equal. And so again, literally that means that we're going to do f of x minus g of x. And so I'm just going to go grab what f of x equals, which is 3 minus 4x. And then I'm going to subtract out whatever g of x equals. But if I write it like this, I'm going to run into a problem. Because you'll notice up here, this is saying subtract the entire function g of x. Whereas right here, this is saying to only subtract the 7x squared. That's the only thing that actually got affected by that, the subtraction there. So when you do this, especially when subtraction is involved, say minus parentheses around that, because we have to remember that we are subtracting the whole thing. Once you've done that, next step, let's go ahead and get rid of that minus that's out front of those parentheses and therefore get rid of the parentheses. So we're basically distributing a -1. So that will give me a negative 7x squared plus 9x minus 10. And then from here, it's just, once again, combining the like terms. You got that part down. I'm not going to worry about doing all that. Next problem. In this case, it says fg of x. Well, normally, if I wrote something like fg, that would normally mean f times g. And it does here too. So really what this is meaning is this is saying figure out what is f of x times g of x going to equal. All right, so I'm going to grab whatever f of x is. That's going to be 3 minus 9x. And then I'm going to multiply it by whatever g of x is, which is 2x squared plus 6x minus 7. And do you notice a bit of a problem with this? And I mean, other than the fact that I had written it a little sloppy. Right now, the only things that would be getting multiplied are the 9x and the 2x squared. And that's not right. It should be all of f of x multiplying by all of g of x. And so you have to include the parentheses here in order for that to actually work. So get those parentheses written in there. Now, you could then go ahead and distribute to get rid of the parentheses, but I'll tell you a secret on this problem. Notice it doesn't say simplify. It will actually take it just the way you see it here. So you could type that into the box right here exactly as it is, even with the parentheses, and this problem will be happy to take it, because what I'm most interested in here is that you see that you're multiplying the two functions, not that you can do all the funky distribution along the way. Then that leads us into our very last problem out of this assignment, where we are shown that we have f over g. Looks like a big old fraction, right? Well, a fraction just means division. And so really what this is meaning is that we are going to be doing f of x divided by g of x, or we can go ahead and stick with the fraction format as well and just write it as f of x over g of x. And it really is just a matter of plugging in whatever f of x is and whatever g of x is. And you can write it either way, as long as you remember parentheses along the way. So, for instance, if I choose to go ahead and stick with the fraction format, I'm going to take f of x and put it on the top. So that's going to be 9 minus 5x. And then on the bottom, I'm grabbing whatever g of x is. So that's the 2x squared minus 10x minus 7. Notice, I've done it. This is f over g of x. I can type that in exactly as I see it, and I'm going to be good. Now, use the equation helper to help you type in something like this with the fraction and all that. When you do that, what you'll find is that when typing in something that's got a big fraction like this involved, is that it'll end up going in as parentheses 9 minus 5x over parentheses 2x squared minus 10x minus 7. It's showing all this stuff is in the top and all this stuff is in the bottom. But that is basically what you would write if you had chosen to look at it as a division symbol instead of just a big old fraction. So again, reinforcing the idea that really these truly are the exact same things. It's just a matter of one looks like a fraction and the other one looks like division, but they truly mean the same thing. Just type it in that way. There's not only no simplification that you have to do, but there's actually not even any simplification you could do with this one to break it down anymore.